This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Efrem Graham. It is a busy Friday. Let's begin this half hour in the Middle East on the day before the start of the Iranian nuclear talks. Israelis are preparing to celebrate Passover, the holiday of freedom. At the same time, concern is growing about when and what kind of Iranian nuclear could be made that could possibly really bring security. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl is on the story.
The U.S.-Iran nuclear talks begin this weekend as a new report warns Iran's nuclear threat has worsened significantly. The Institute for Science and International Security warns that Iran has improved its nuclear weapons capabilities, that it takes less time to build those weapons, and that the idea of building them has gained more acceptance in Iran. The report also says the nuclear threat from Iran has increased significantly since February of last year. President Trump already warned Iran it has about 2 months to come to a deal or face military strikes.
We have a little time, but we don't have much time because we're not going to let them have a nuclear weapon. Can't let them have a nuclear weapon.
Warning that Israeli security is on the line, former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren, writes the Americans could agree to a deal that lets the Iranians once again keep their nuclear facilities and centrifuges intact. Another Israeli concern is the Iranians will stall for time to finish developing such weapons and get ready to repel any attack to destroy their nuclear facilities. Iran denies it's building nuclear weapons.
We will provide whatever guarantee necessary to prove we are not seeking a nuclear bomb.
Trump has moved a massive amount of American military power into the Middle East that could strike Iran's nuclear facilities. The Iranians are trying to neutralize that threat, warning Tehran might stop cooperating with the International Atomic Energy Agency and expel its inspectors if military threats against Iran continue. Here in Israel, a new report says the Palestinian Authority is still paying allowances to terrorists who've killed Israelis. The PA insists it stopped the infamous pay-to-slay program, but the watchdog group Palestinian Media Watch points out one PA employee's publication admitted some money being paid out is specifically for martyrs, prisoners, and the wounded. Meanwhile, both Trump and Israeli sources tell the Jerusalem Post it appears a new deal is close to getting the remaining hostages who are alive freed.
Want to get those 24 out really fast, and we're working on it very hard.
This comes after freed hostages traveled to Washington.
We are here because of President Trump. Thank you.
Israeli government spokesman David Mencer points out Jews in Israel and around the world are preparing for Passover, also known as the Festival of Freedom. That's when Moses cried out to Pharaoh, "Let my people go."
That cry is not just an ancient piece of history. It's our urgent, living plea for the 59 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And Chris Mitchell, our bureau chief, joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what are the concerns Israel has about these negotiations?
Well, Efrem, how long the negotiations are going to continue? What is the goal of the negotiations? What happens if the talks fail? Trump has made it clear, and you saw that in Julie's report, that there would be very dangerous consequences for Iran if it does go, if it fails in these negotiations, and he's made clear that the military option is on the table. For Israel here, Efrem, there's really one acceptable outcome, and that would be dismantling or destroying completely all Iran's nuclear facilities, not freezing them. Ronald Reagan said famously many years ago against the former Soviet Union, trust but verify. And I would say over here in Israel, after years of dealing with Iran, the saying would probably be, don't trust and still verify. As we saw, Michael Oren, who was the former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., said, you know, if they do dismantle completely and destroy, it's going to serve the interests of not only Israel, but also the United States. And many people believe this really could be the best opportunity Israel has ever had to go ahead and destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. They have the U.S. diplomatic support and massive U.S. military support.
I know we've talked about this earlier in the week, but what more can you tell us about the pay-to-slay program?
Well, it continues. We talked earlier today to Itamar Marcus of the Palestinian Media Watch. He says they're still paying, quote, martyrs, prisoners, and wounded. They're only just finding another way to hide the payments to terrorists and their families without being detected. They used to do it by direct deposit. Now they're doing it through the post office. That's where the Palestinian Media Watch found out that these payments are still being made, even though the U.S. the PA had told the U.S. they needed 6 months to stop the program. So they're still rewarding terror and terrorists.
Of course, this all happens as we are preparing for Passover. How are Jews in Israel preparing?
Well, as every year, they're cleaning leaven out of their homes. It's called hametz. Sometimes here in the streets of Jerusalem, you can see that it literally gets burned on the streets, or sometimes it's sold to Gentiles. So this year, though, in the shadow of the hostages, it really takes on a new meaning, as it did last Passover as well. We talked to Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell. She had a Seder meal with former hostages and the family of the hostages. There are 59 hostages left. This is the holiday of freedom that Jews have celebrated for over 3,000 years. The saying, the celebration of freedom, this is when Moses said to Pharaoh, let my people go. This is the same cry right now for Israelis to Hamas, let the hostages go.
Indeed. What can we expect this evening on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, we'll have updates on the latest things that are happening here in the region. We'll have more with Sharon Haskell talking about not only this year's Passover and why it's so significant, but also her views on the nuclear talks. We also have a story on French Aliyah, this fulfillment of prophecies of the Jews coming back to the land of the Promised Land after 2,000 years of being dispersed throughout the nations. And it's a very special story, very personal story, a lot of human interest. And what we're hearing from these French Jews is that the situation in France is really dire for many French Jews. Each and every day, there's a lot of persecution going on. Also, a story about Israelis going back to the north, or some actually waiting it out and not going back just yet. And also a story about the sovereignty Seder, an idea we're talking about and praying for the sovereignty over the biblical heartland of Israel.
All right, thank you. I want to remind folks at home, you can see the latest from Jerusalem Dateline at 8 p.m. Eastern on the CBN News Channel. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can find it on YouTube. Here at home, investigators are looking into 2 air safety incidents that took place Thursday. One incident took place in New York City, where a sightseeing helicopter began a free fall after it broke apart in the air. 6 people died in that crash. The second incident took place at Reagan National Airport, when 2 American Airlines planes struck their wings. CBN News' Kelly Wright is on this story.
What began as a family trip to see New York City from the air in a helicopter turned into a deadly disaster when the sightseeing chopper broke apart in midair, plunging into the Hudson River upside down. Siemens executive Agustin Escobar, his wife and 3 children, along with the pilot, did not survive. From the ground, people could hear and see the last moments of the helicopter as it began its free fall.
You just saw the plane started falling apart in midair, and then the tail came off and then just flipped over in midair, started falling into the ground. Propellers still propelling without the plane helicopter as it was falling. Then I got video of it flipping into the water.
First responders made a swift response to the crash site, hoping to rescue the victims, but they were unable to save any of them. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, at a news briefing, expressed remorse for the loss of the passengers and the pilot.
Our hearts go out to the family of those who were on board and all 6 who were on board of the helicopter. It's almost reminiscence of the plane going down here on the Hudson River, but thank God we didn't lose any lives back then. It's still fresh and it's still new. The investigation is ongoing, and we have the entire family members. We're lifting them up in prayer.
As that air tragedy unfolded in New York, another event occurred at Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C. The wing of an American Airlines plane struck the wing of another American aircraft on a taxiway. One plane was heading to Charleston, South Carolina, when its wing struck the other plane en route to New York City. No passengers were hurt in that incident. 5 members of Congress were also aboard the flight to New York. While investigations are now underway to find out why that helicopter fell from the sky in New York and the wingtip incident in Washington, D.C., some members of Congress are now calling for more safety measures to be implemented. For instance, Senator Mark Warner of Virginia is calling on Congress and the president to not cut the workforce of the FAA or air traffic controllers. He says more needs to be done and applied to ensure safe air travel. In Washington, Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Thank you, Kelly. Thursday, House Republicans squeezed through a budget plan supported by President Donald Trump. The vote was close, 216 to 214. This opens the door for tax cuts and more spending on border security and defense. Some Republicans wanted deeper spending cuts, but party leaders promise that fight will come later. The Senate is up next, but no date yet for a final vote. Coming up, a powerful tornado destroyed a church's sanctuary, but no one was hurt. We're going to have the story for you. It's a miracle you're going to be able to see right here on CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. A series of storms devastated several states with tornadoes, heavy rain, and flooding. Members of a Kentucky church are thanking God no one was hurt after a powerful twister destroyed their sanctuary. Wendy Griffith reports now on how that building sat empty during its usual Wednesday night prayer service.
Pastor Tim, right behind you, incredible destruction. That was your main worship building, correct?
It was. Yes, it was.
Wednesday night, April 2nd, the forecast over Paducah, Kentucky didn't look good. And Pastor Tim Turner of Christ Community Church did something he'd never done before.
But we canceled that night because of the storms. So it is the first time in my 35 years of pastoring that we've ever done that. We just feel like that was an act of God.
I don't think anyone, like you said, would have survived that.
Well, if you look at all these blocks, it was a block wall 18 feet high, and it all fell in, and the roof came in. And I doubt there would have been any survivors. So we're not mourning today. We're praising God.
Church member Lindsay Stanley says she and her husband rarely miss Wednesday night service.
But we had a feeling like we should just stay home. Actually, when we got the call that the church was gone, we were in the closet because the tornado had literally just gone past over our house. It was me, my husband, and our 2 daughters, and we were literally in the closet with helmets on and everything. It was that, like, this thing's coming.
The tornado hit just as the church had completed 5 years of renovation on their new sanctuary, wiping out thousands of dollars in new cameras, instruments, and lighting equipment.
We had just finished all the remodels. Matter of fact, on Monday, I had told someone, I said, we can slow down now. The sanctuary is finally beautiful. And on Wednesday, it was gone.
But Stanley sees it another way.
I truly believe that this looks like a setback, but it's actually a setup. When I first started on that church about 4 years ago, the Lord told me this is an end times army. My dad was actually healed in that church, stage 4 cancer. We've had so many cancer healings and just good, like, amazing moves of the Holy Spirit. And I truly believe, like, he knows that we needed a bigger place because we were outgrowing that sanctuary. And we thought it would be years and years down the road. And I think he's just like, you know what, let's go a little quicker and I'm going to help.
Pastor Tim, what is the silver lining in this devastation?
First and foremost is we are so thankful no one's hurt. And we had service here that night. We all linger after church. You know how church people are. We linger and talk. And there would have been people here. And the way it looks, the way that the structure, how it fell, It looked like the roof came off and the walls were all people. And they were 18-foot concrete walls. And nobody would survive.
Turner says the other good news, their old youth center building remained nearly untouched. And although smaller, can still be used for services until they can build something bigger.
Resilient people will build back. But, you know, we're so thankful.
Yeah.
God is so good to us. I preached it on Sunday morning. I want the world to know that this church still loves God, still trusts God, still believes in God.
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Still ahead, a powerful theatrical experience shares the epic story of God's love. We've got that for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. Welcome back to CBN NewsWatch. The Thorn is a live theatrical experience described as the Cirque du Soleil meets the Passion. It shares the story of God's love and combines dance, music, and drama. Let's talk about the Thorn in terms of the size and scope of it all. So this is a traveling tour right now. How big is this production?
Yeah, so the tour is 52 cast and crew, and the cast comes from all over the world. So it's a big production, but we love doing it.
How would you describe this production? It's the passion story. What's unfolding on stage?
Yeah, that's great. So it's the story of the gospel told from the book of Genesis to the book of Acts. And it's told through the perspective or the lens of a narrator, which is told by an 80 or a 95-year-old, he's not actually 95, but the character, 95-year-old John the Beloved on the island of Patmos. And then he takes them on this journey for the next 2.5 hours that begins with creation and it ends with, you know, the Great Commission. It's been described as like a Cirque experience meets the Passion. But it's very immersive, very fast-paced. We get a lot of comments from people that say, I don't love live theater and I love the Thorn.
Where was this born? What happened?
So it actually started almost 30 years ago. I was working as a volunteer youth pastor in Colorado Springs. This 16-year-old girl came and sat next to me. And she held out her arms and I could see where she'd been cutting up and down her arms and she was sobbing. So I turned to her and I said, you don't have to do that because I believe Jesus did that for us 2,000 years ago. So I thought, you know what? Next Wednesday night, I want to do an illustrated sermon, a drama that would show two things. The price that Jesus paid, so that young people would know no matter what you're going through, no matter how dark the season, no matter what it is you're struggling with, Jesus understands because he's been here. And then number two, I wanted to show the reality of what I call the spiritual battle for the destiny, identity, and calling of young people. And then it grew over the next 25 years to what it is today.
Wow. How many iterations have we had? Did we do movie? How does this evolve?
So it began in the local church, and then we began to get calls from other churches around the country saying, would you bring this to our church? So then we went through about 10 years we became an independent production company, and then we partnered with mega churches around the country to do the production in different mega churches. And then my wife and I had an idea, what if we could film the Thorn and put it in movie theaters? So we partnered with Fathom Productions and Fathom Events out of Denver, and we recorded the Thorn in 2022. And then we thought, well, if we're gonna be in 800 movie theaters, then maybe we should do a live tour, one final swan song. And we booked these Class A 2,500 seat performing arts centers, not knowing what was going to happen. And it was an Ephesians 3 moment, more than we could have asked, thought, dreamed, or imagined. Almost every city, every show was totally sold out. People of all ethnicities, all backgrounds, seekers, where culture says the best stories are told, we're bringing the greatest story of all.
Wow. Why do you think it works?
Well, number one, I think it's good. The main reason it works, though, is because God wants it to. And if we will allow our gifts to be used by God, and if we can get out of the way, then I think the Holy Spirit does something even way beyond us.
And the Thorn is playing through Easter. To purchase tickets and see if it's in your area, go to thethorn.com. Stay with us. Your Friday Faithful is coming up next.
Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today.
A groundbreaking effort that reads like it is straight out of science fiction. A biotech company is attempting to make extinction a thing of the past, using DNA from a tooth and a skull as far back as 72,000 years ago. Researchers at a Dallas-based Colossal Biosciences bred 3 wolves with traits that are similar to dire wolves, once native North American species that became extinct thousands of years ago. The wolf pups are named Romulus, Remus, and Khaleesi. They live on an ecological preserve. Currently, they weigh about 80 pounds and are expected to reach 140 pounds by the time they reach adulthood. Time now for your Friday Faithful, and today I want to leave you with this thought. God's concern is deep and it is wide, and He wants to use you to show the world just how much. Remember this, you are blessed to be a blessing. You are called to be an answer to someone's prayer. Open your heart and open your hand and be the heart and hand of God to someone in need. And I encourage you not to wait. Do it today. With that word, I want you to make today a fabulous Friday. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at any time. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today or any day. You can email us. That address is newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We look forward to seeing you right back here, same time come Monday. Goodbye, God bless. Have a wonderful weekend.